Hey dudes, welcome back to another episode of our Rhomas Men's Team podcast. You are about to listen to one of our prior team meetings. If you ever want to join one of our live sessions that we have every Monday and Friday, head over to rhomas.com. That's RHOMAS.com and put your email in and we will send you a live link every time we record. We generally record on Mondays and Fridays. So if you ever want to be on the actual podcast, like we bring men up all the time to talk about their goals, talk about their obstacles, etc., head over to rhomas.com. And then also, if you want to help support the channel grow and also have access to exclusive content, book reviews, extra whiteboard sessions, etc., and some coaching sessions, head over to patreon.com and support us. We would love it. But if not, no biggie. We'll see you on the live sessions. Later, dudes. Enjoy this podcast.
We're live, dude. We're live and recording. What up, Wes?
What's up, dude? Sorry, I was just looking at my scorecard, and I'm filling out today's. How's it going, brother?
Pretty good, dude. Pretty good. Regrettably, I still haven't activated my scorecard. I know. It actually, I know exactly what kept me from it. It entailed a trip to the grocery store that I didn't want to make in order to make all the green drinks and stuff.
Yeah.
So I will be on it. Don't get me wrong. I will be on it. I've been on a positive note. I've been 2 for 2 in my weeks of I set aside the things that I want to get done that week, and I've been crossing them all off. So.
Oh hell yeah, man.
It's good, but I need to set that scorecard back up because again, it's just I'm doing all of the stuff of it, but when I have that card, I do it way more. If that makes sense. I'm eating vegetables every day. I'm sleeping for the most part 8 hours, but when I have the scorecard going, it's I eat 4 times the amount of it, if that makes sense. So by next week, mark my words, that thing will be fired up.
Hell yeah. I mean, that's the whole thing. It's the same thing for me. If I don't have it, when I just try to do it from my head, I'm abysmal, but I think I'm good, if that makes sense.
Yep.
So just to now step on your throat a little bit to really declare victory on the scorecard, if that's okay. No, I'm just playing. So my score right now, as of this morning, I got an A+, so a 10 out of 11 on Monday, basically all 10s and 111 yesterday. So I'm at an A+ from Monday through Thursday, and then today I did 5 out of the 11 things so far with Ray on the scorecard team meeting this morning. But we did end up chatting about a few things, so I didn't do some of the normal things we do on our scorecard team meeting. But yeah, the scorecard is developed, just for the guys listening. It's there's your wins right there, right? Just it immediately allows you to go out and grab 11 wins with relative ease once you get into a good habit of it. That's why we tell the guys, it's hey, come on the scorecard team meeting if you ever have trouble with your scorecard. It just gets you back to the fundamentals, and you knock basically all of them out inside of an hour each morning.
Yeah, no, it's nice. When I was doing it properly every day for weeks at a time, it's just having that green drink every day is a big deal.
Yep.
So luckily the one thing I have going that has been seems to be sticking no matter what is I actually have a daily routine. I'm actually sticking to it. So this is cool. The scorecard is just it just keeps you. It keeps you on every single point on a bunch of dimensions too.
Yep, 100%.
Yeah, man.
And I see Jordan Fisk. I think I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing that last name incorrectly. He says I need to figure out what the scorecard stuff is. If somebody wouldn't mind if they have the scorecard link, if you have it, would you mind sending it in the chat to Jordan? So Jordan, just so you know what it is we have a scorecard every single day. Monday through Saturday. Sunday is meant for off days for family. You can, and if you want to take Saturday or whatever other day works for you. And it's 11 things. So for instance, did you drink your water today? Half gallon of water. Did you get 8 hours of sleep? Did you weigh yourself? Did you journal today? Did you meditate today? All of those things. It's meant to give you some very fundamental and, not very complex wins. So that way you can build off of your wins from there, if that makes sense. And then we also have a scorecard team that does it together every morning, Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific, that goes through that stuff together. So yeah, if you have any questions on it, let us know. But that's the general gist. And Troy just sent you I believe, this spreadsheet for the scorecard.
Yeah,
cool.
No, I'm excited. I'm excited to fire back up this week.
Hell yeah,
I
man.
I'm a sleepy boy, dude. I drove down to Baltimore, or well, I guess like technically Timonium, Maryland. Did a show, came back last night, and then I'm going back today for like the weekend. So
Oh, damn, man.
yeah,
How far of it is like 2 hour drive,
2 hour
3 hour
drive.
drive?
Yeah, 2 hour drive.
Okay, how'd it go?
It's awesome. So much fun.
You did that last night?
Yeah.
What time do you get to bed when that happens?
I would say like 12:30. 12:30 got
Oof,
up, got my alarm goes off like 6:45, so it's
damn.
not bad. That's really not that bad. If I take a little nap today, I'll be good to go. But
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah,
sleepy boy, man. That's right.
I'm a sleepy boy. But I had a so I was this is something that kind of came up for me, and again I think this all stems from uh, kind of a larger project I've been working on, which has been like organizing my priorities like very clearly because I feel like I had like a nice little daily schedule, but there was kind of a chaotic element where like I would
Mm,
like work on this thing, work on that thing, like technically I was time blocking, I was doing all this stuff for the most part. I just wasn't organized from like a more basic level, if that makes sense.
sure.
Like
Oh yeah.
should I work on Psych more? Should I work on the stand up more? Should I do da da
Yeah.
da? So I really this week and again this just comes from like the constant journaling, constant meditation, and then like like letting things just occur to me while I meditate, and then it's like, well, let me put that into practice, and then seeing how that is. And this week I've been kind of pleased to I've really figured out a way to I've been trying to do this forever, and like prioritize doing like the comedy podcast, prioritize stand up, putting actual I haven't put like no effort into stand up at all, like
Mm.
actually putting effort into it, and like yeah, it was just fun. Like it was fun. Like I've had a good time. Actually prepared myself, and started writing a lot more stand up type stuff, and it was cool. So
Yeah, well, I'm in my head. I'm pairing this with what you've said before. I think on your list of, let's say, time blocking actions, the next level up, or like the deeper level, would be priorities. But then the deeper level than that would be values. And Matt, correct me if I'm wrong on any of that type of thinking, but that's the kind of the way I see it in my head.
mm,
Um, and because at the end of the day, you get a bunch of new opportunities. Like you've got new opportunities, like that show, last night and this weekend, et cetera, where you might have to pivot some of your planned stuff depending on how recent the opportunity is. And that's where you have to fall back on, okay, well, what are my true priorities? And if that's not a good filter at that point in time, then it's like, okay, well, what are my true values? And then being able to quickly, and that's where you've done a great job of teaching me and the rest of the guys of at that level of analysis, it is towards and away question,
yep,
right? Like, okay, this opportunity came up. I only have 10 minutes to think about it or 2 minutes to think about it. Okay, so I can't go through all this analysis. I can't put it in my action sheet and priorities and time block. Like that's I need to make this decision now. Okay, am I moving towards or away my fundamental core values and goals?
yeah. I mean, yeah. And for a while, for me personally, is and I won't ramble on about this, but like the stand up in terms of like trying to craft some sort of like core personal mission that you're working out of, which again is an ongoing process, and you kind of changes and morphs. I just was having a hard time like fitting in the stand up stuff because I just had like a negative attitude towards like a lot of aspects of stand up in that whole kind of industry. I don't know where it's coming from really. I think it was a lot of like personal ego hang up stuff of
Mm.
like, well, this and that, and blah blah blah. But I've just like stripped all of that down to the basics of like I'm going to actually if I'm going to do something, just like you said last week, if you're going to do something, either do it or don't
Mhm.
half-ass stuff. Don't be like,
Mhm.
well, it's like if I'm going to do a thing and say that I do a thing, I should be on some level preparing and practicing for it.
Mhm.
So yeah, and I've stripped away a lot of the because it's like there's say I do have negative, and this can apply to any industry. Say there, you have a thing about sales, like, well, there's just this negative. It's like you don't have to participate in that stuff. It's like that. It's like now when I do stand up, I truly, truly do it where it's like all I care about is just making people laugh. And it might sound
Yeah.
obvious, but a lot of times it's like
Oh no.
I care about being the person who's good at stand up and makes people laugh and is noticed, blah 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 blah, and it makes it an enjoyable experience or not enjoyable experience. And lately, that's all I care about. It's like I'm going to just schedule some time, go over my material, write extra stuff, and then also when I'm there, try to be present, be in the moment, and just genuinely make people have fun. And it's like
Yeah.
that subtle shift, man. It's unbelievable what that does.
Oh, it's subtle, but it's enormous. I can tell you it's the same thing for public speaking. Like I just gave many presentations over the last 2 weeks. And that little shift, like when people say, oh, well, why aren't you nervous to give a talk? Well, it's because if you just flip it, it's not for me, it's for them. So like I'm going to do everything I can to have them walk out of here that they learn something new. Versus, and you're right, Matt, like you have to be really introspective about this, because somebody else could say, or like maybe past me would say, well, yeah, that is what I'm trying to do. It's like, no, you're not. You're trying to be the guy who looks good, or who people will walk away like, oh yeah, that guy's really good. Like that's a different goal.
Yeah.
That is a different goal than saying, I want the other person to receive this value and I'm going to do whatever I can. And and sometimes that could be the exact opposite of what the egotistical goal would be. It's like, I'm willing to look like a dummy.
Yep.
And from like literally one of my slides is me in an elf suit. I showed Ray this weekend. It's like,
that picture. Yeah.
Oh, dude. So I embarrass myself right up front, and I tell the people, say, hey, there's no embarrassing questions. I'm going to embarrass myself right now. Like this does not have to be so formal. So Matt, I can 100% relate to what you're saying. That subtle shift of it's not for me, it's for them. I am just a mechanism for them to get to their ultimate goal.
Yeah, and it's like, you can say all this stuff, and like I said, I say all this stuff all the time, but it's like it took a while for me to actually truly make that shift where like I feel as if I'm living that out rather than that being some abstract like, yeah, that's a cool idea.
Yep.
And it just, dude, it makes the whole process so much more enjoyable.
Oh yeah.
Where before I was just adding so much negative shit to it that just, it's like, oh, and this, that, and that, and you can like assign it all on, other stuff and other people, but in reality, it was just me participating in that in some ground level, and it's like, dude, it's, so that's been a big one for me, and I'm curious if people could try to do stuff like that within like, their workplace and see how that, just making that shift, even if like I fucking hate this place, it's like, my boss, the fucking asshole, the people here are all miserable, it's like, you can, and it's difficult, but it is possible to just not participate in that stuff and be like, all right. And if it's like, if everyone here is a dickhead, I don't care about anything here, it's like, I say this all the time, it's like, well, start looking, there's, get out of there.
Yep.
But also I see, this quick side note, I keep seeing this thing from Francisco just said something about why aren't there more male babysitters? Dude, this is something I think about all the time. Something I think about all the time, man. And also shout out to Francisco. I saw him on the Discord roasting s'mores with the cheering, and I was like, dude, that's it.
Hell yeah, man.
That's the shit. He built a fire pit. He just gathered rocks and formed this fire pit, and now he's having experiences around it. And it's like, dude, that's just the shit, man.
That's super primal too.
Oh,
yeah,
dude,
Francisco's a beast, man. He's an absolute beast.
Absolute animal, dude. And dude, I'm telling you, the boy babysitters, male babysitters, I mean, they would crush, dude. They would absolutely crush. They
would. I wonder if there's the underlying reason for it is twofold. Number one, women obviously have oxytocin, and they're, I think statistically, if you look at the bell curves, significantly more nurturing. I think there's a component there. And then I also think there's just the reality is, I don't know, some like disgusting stuff that with kids, oftentimes is again skewed towards men, if that makes sense, without getting too. So there are not many women pedophiles out there, like I would imagine that probably goes through a mother's mind when she's selecting a babysitter. It's like, oh, I don't know. I'm just guessing. I'm not a parent, so I don't know. But I'm guessing there's some of that stuff in there as well.
Well, I think dudes just don't I think a lot of it is just dudes don't. I mean, that is possible, but I think a lot of it is dudes just are like that's not a job for me. And it's like, dude, when I was in high school, my high school girlfriend was a babysitter, and days that she couldn't go, I would fill in and babysit like 3 and 4 year olds. Dude, I crushed it. It was so much
sweetest job ever.
So much fun. I mean, yeah, for an infant, maybe it might be a little different, but like once they can run around and shit, it's like, it's a sweet gig. And I actually saw a post the other day. Some lady was specifically requesting a dude babysitter. She's like, I want to do like a male babysitter, like hang out with my son and do stuff, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. I think it makes sense on many levels, right? Like, yeah, if you have a son, you can, and especially if it's a respectful, gentleman type of male that can teach the son certain, just how to be a gentleman. Right, just by hanging out with them and teaching them to be polite, etc. And then also there's an element of protection.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, call me crazy, but if an intruder were to break into the house, I don't know if a 16-year-old girl would be able to handle herself as much as a larger male counterpart.
Yeah, man. No, I mean, I really say that for people who are like looking for a flexible gig, like looking for a flexible part-time gig. It's like, dude, toss yourself in the nano pool, dude. Not the nannies. You're a nano. Dude, he's so fun. But yeah, either way, I just got sidetracked. I saw that and I'm like, dude, I've been thinking about that a lot. But dude, what else is going on? I mean, we have I wonder if there's anyone we can grab up here and
Yeah, well, I don't want to call him out, but Andrew Lincoln, I believe, is here. And I think last time he said he might be up for coming on. So A-Link, if you are up here and you're also up for coming on, let us know. Matt, can you see him out there?
Let me see. Also, too, if anyone has any sort of burning questions or things, let me know. I don't see the boy. Oh, there I see him. I see him here.
So yeah. he might not be ready to talk about his stuff yet.
He's at work right now.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, man. I mean, I'm trying to think. Really, like, and this is something I've been thinking about as well in terms of this, as well as the stuff I've seen for Psych-Null. Again, of like figuring out some form of like order of business, like you were saying, Wes. You wouldn't mind having like a, like come in. We can always, again, you and I can shoot the breeze for hours. It's easy. But also, again, making sure people get the most value out of it. So if anyone has any sort of like, this is something I'm thinking about, this is a situation I'm presented with that's been kind of giving me pause, toss it in there.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things I'm thinking about is come in, like you said, Matt, on Monday, call the shots. Maybe even give an update on the last week's scorecard for the entire week. And then one single topic that we can go deep into that we've either learned over the week or over the entire week or something like that, that you can walk away with. Like, what's one thing we can all learn for today or tear apart? And then also, if somebody has anything that they want to talk about, bring them on, et cetera. I think that might be a good structure that I would personally benefit from.
Yeah. This is something I've been thinking about as well. I think would be good to have people, if they're interested, say they want to learn about a topic, right? And they're like, I've always wanted to kind of research this, but I don't do it. Have people give little presentations on stuff.
Hell yeah.
That'd be cool.
I would love that.
Just be like, dude, like it could be anything. Just come, deliver. I think that's good practice, honestly, to just take something you're interested in and learn how to present on it.
I would absolutely love it. That'd be phenomenal.
So
can we put you on the hot seat to teach something right now?
Yeah, I can absolutely do it.
Okay. You pick.
So here's fuck, man, this is the hot seat. I would say all right, I'll toss this out. So I think the easiest thing that I think is helpful for people, and I think I've kind of covered these points before, but would be to break down the 6 aspects of psychological flexibility.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Hell yeah.
And I'm going off of memory, so bear with me. But
no disclaimers, dude.
From all the psychological flexibility stuff that comes from acceptance and commitment therapy, there's like these 6 core components that make up the skill set that is psychological flexibility. And I've been like, dude, and this is just a random aside. It's insane how when you're like, let me just do things to help people, and you actually mean it and you actually do it, how much you end up growing personally. That was like, for me, that took me by storm, man, because it was like, and then this is like from the logotherapy stuff that I'm doing for Psych-Null. I'm wrapping it up now. But this idea of like how, and we have this idea of self-actualization, how like we're going to like within a closed loop system of ourselves actualize into like our final form or like our individuated selves. And what Frankel's saying is like, you're not going to actualize yourself. You're going to actualize potentials that exist outside of you. Like you're saying, Wes, I'm going to go give these talks to these people. And for the reason I'm going to help them, I'm going to educate them on finance. I'm going to do all this stuff. For me, I want to like teach people things, like strip down all the psychological modalities and find like the basic fundamental principles and then give them to people. But in doing that, I was able to like fully, and for the first time, I would say, have the patience and motivation and reason to fully comprehend a psychological modality, like, what they say, like soup to nuts. Like before, like I'd kind of read about CBT, I'd read about Freud a little, but there was no organizing principle. So I'm saying that, when you're doing things for other people, you end up growing a ton as a result. And when I started reading about psychological flexibility, like I started actually putting these things into practice. And dude, I will say that it's had like a tremendous effect on my life, to the point where I almost sometimes shudder thinking about what would have happened in my life if I had never done that thing. Does that make sense?
Yep, absolutely.
So, that aside, so the whole idea of psychological flexibility is that human beings are by nature designed and rewarded to, the way we're set up and built, to avoid uncomfortable things, uncomfortable scenarios.
Yep.
So it's like, public speaking. I don't want to do that. This could go wrong, that could go wrong. I could look like a fool. Yeah, let me just put that off another week. And then your brain goes, good job. Because you just, in your mind, you avoided something that could have, seized you or, hurt you.
You avoided pain.
Yeah, but then over time, what happens is you get comfortable, but you slowly constrict your world until then you start feeling what's called the pain of absence, which you look back on your life and you said, damn, I didn't do any of that stuff. And that's I would say a tremendously deeper pain than short-term anxiety over doing something uncomfortable. So that the guy Stephen Hayes is saying that is our default system. If we're not conscious of what we're doing, we're most likely enacting, for the most part, a lot of avoidance. We're avoiding all of these things, and our life just gets worse and worse, and we try to control it more and more. So what he's saying is we have to face the things that make us uncomfortable in order to live rich, fulfilling lives. And he also leaves out the term happiness, because he's like, that's kind of, again, one of those that's like a self-contained system. I want to be happy. I want to be happy. Well, this person's making me stressed. You're affecting my happiness. Where he's saying is you have to identify your values and then act in accordance with your values. And then inevitably, when you're acting in accordance with your values, it's going to put you in uncomfortable situations for which you need these 6 core processes, which would be, again, having a clearly defined set of values and reasons for doing what you're doing. The ability to distance yourself from your thoughts, which would be cognitive fusion. And if this starts to get,
what's it called? Cognitive what?
Cognitive diffusion.
Okay.
So it's in order to, and I'm just trying to present a roadmap for why it's useful. So, you're like, all right, I don't want to keep avoiding uncomfortable stuff, because I know, again, going in for a big job interview, giving a big presentations, these are all the things that, let's say a more richer, more fulfilling version of my life exists on the other side of these tasks that make me very uncomfortable. So it's these have to be done, or you feel the pain of not really actualizing yourself. So in order to arm yourself against going into these unknown experiences that conjure up a great amount of anxiety, again, it's don't think about your discomfort. Think about the fact that you are doing all the things you're doing for a greater value system. Like we said before, it's not about you or how you look, but why are you doing it? For my family, for my community, blah, blah, blah. So that's the first step. Establish some form of values, and then try to act in accordance with the values rather than how comfortable you are or aren't. So we got that. And again, of course, stop me if I start meandering, because it's
so that's the first step. And what is that? Because the way that my brain works is I got to be able to label it. So
sure,
that's the first step, right?
Values, yeah.
Okay, so
that's how I break it down. Values.
Okay,
so it's
cool.
Try to set up your values and see what's important to yourself, and then pay attention to how much you're acting in accordance with them versus how much you're not. And if you're not, it's typically because you're anxious or afraid. And then so it's and most of us are in that, for the most part, all the time, of trying to avoid all this shit and blah blah blah. So the way of kind of getting away from that is taking so we have our values figured out, and then he comes up with this idea called cognitive diffusion, which is the second part of the 6 psychological flexibility components. And that is really just understanding that your thoughts are something that occur within your head, and there's something, if you start to practice meditation, can start to observe the process of your thinking versus by default aligning yourself with the content of your thoughts. I always use the thing, I'm a loser. Yeah, I can experience that thought and say I am thinking that I'm a loser, or I can say I'm a fucking loser. And by meditating, by looking into the different techniques for what they call cognitive diffusion, you can start to notice the fact that you're thinking, and also be aware of the fact that your thoughts are directly connected to your biology through what he calls the transformation of functions effect. So it's it's okay that you have a thought and it kind of sends you into a heightened state, because a lot of times that the fact that it's connected to our biology convinces us that our thoughts are real. But with the cognitive diffusion thing saying is no, it will affect your biology. You can think you're a loser and feel sad and blah, blah, blah. It's still, just because you feel it doesn't not mean that it's real. And the more and more practice you can do around identifying the process that you're thinking, the better you can get at kind of like distancing yourself from those like worst case scenarios your mind's conjuring up, and continue to move in the direction of like your most valued life, or your most, your top priorities.
Okay, so the first one is established values.
Yep.
The second one is what are you calling it?
They call it cognitive diffusion.
Okay.
But it's really mindful. It's honestly mindfulness. It's just put into like sciencey terms because it's psychology, and they have to be like, they have like a protocol. So there's that. And then there's the third thing. And again, you can put these, all of these can be in a different order. It doesn't matter. But this is the order I like them in. So that's another thing to work on. The second thing to work on is presence, which is, again, similar to cognitive diffusion, but it's like I use the Mindfulness Bell app. I have a bell go off on my phone like probably like 6-7 times a day during like the working hours. And as soon as that bell dings, I check in with myself. Like, am I present in what I do? Am I being present in what I'm doing, who I'm talking to, or am I kind of daydreaming and being detached? And again, that's just more mindfulness stuff. Like, be present, be mindful of what you're doing. If you're eating, just eat. Don't try to think about 10 different things. And that's if you're somewhere, if you're at a party or at a work function, fully be there. Like the whole analogy that I like to use is like, say you're at a party and you're there and you're kind of not talking to anyone. You're just like judging everything. You're like, either you're judging yourself, like, oh, no one wants to talk to me, I'm acting weird here, or you're being like, what the fuck's up with that guy? You're not really at the party. You're there physically, but you're not mentally present. And that's what like presence is. And that's what I like. The mindfulness bell dings, and it's like, okay, let me get out of my head and like just go do the thing I'm doing. So I also, like, in terms of like the party example, if you're at a party and like you're, like, oh, what's that person doing? What am I doing here? It would be like if you were at a party, like measuring the walls for some reason. It's like, that's weird.
Right.
Why would you do that? Just go talk to people. Go do things, blah, blah, blah. And then again, obviously all of this is underset by like, and if you go there and you genuinely try to talk to people and you're there and you're present and you have a bad time, it's like, that's valuable knowledge. It's like, well, then don't go there anymore. Go somewhere else. You know what I mean? Like, so it's like, but you can only truly experience a thing if you're fully present versus like if you're just in your head at a party. Of course you had a horrible time. You just sat there and judged everybody. So you weren't fully present for it. So you didn't get to fully experience what it could have been. So that's presence. That's a third one. And then the fourth one is a really, really big one. And it sounds simple, but it's something I work at a lot, is acceptance. So you have your values, you're working on the cognitive diffusion, you're working on being present, more mindful. And then the fourth one is accepting everything that currently is, right? So you're working to make everything better, but it has to come in the psychological flexibility model. It really, really helps for you to accept it, actually not just say it, to truly accept things for what they are, accept yourself for where you are, accept the people in your life for who they are. And it's like, you might not like how it is, but you can accept that they are the way they are and really work on doing that. And then, still be honest with how you feel about stuff. But it's like, it's okay that I'm the way I am. It's okay that this is my life circumstance. Like, not even like that I like it. I just accept fully that this is the case.
Right. You don't have to agree with it. Yes, I don't agree with it, but I accept it because it is what it is.
Yep. And the way they break this down, I really, really like this, is like you practice saying yes to things in your head. So you think of a situation you don't like, and typically you're saying no. And again, like, our thoughts are connected to our biology. So if there's something that's going on that we don't like, we're kind of, every time we think of it, saying like, no, no, no. And like, it's just sending us where, you can either activate your parasympathetic nervous system through your thoughts, or you can activate your sympathetic nervous system through your thoughts. And when you're not accepting stuff, that's your sympathetic. You got your juices, your adrenaline's flowing, your cortisol, all that stuff. When you can look at a thing you don't like and say, you know what, I don't like that, but it's okay. You've just by the speed of your thought, you've activated your parasympathetic nervous system.
Yeah.
So there's like, the more you can kind of view your situations through like, it's okay, I'm saying yes to it, even though I don't like it. I'm saying yes that it's there and it can be there, and I'll be okay even though that's the case. And that, that's something people work. I've worked on that a lot. I honestly think that's like, the cognitive diffusion stuff sounds really cool, but like the acceptance piece, I think, is the biggest bang for buck, man. If you really get into that, and there's a book, Letting Go, I've talked about it before, by David R. Hawkins. That's a very good book on the terms, what they call like the mechanism of surrender and letting go and acceptance. And it's like, that's a really, so that, acceptance, that's the fourth one. That's a very big piece of it. And all of these, again, if you get better at acceptance, you're typically better at mindfulness. If you get better at mindfulness, you're better at acceptance.
Yeah,
you have your
reciprocal
values.
determinism.
Exactly. All these things are interwoven. So, like, work on all of them and they all help each other.
And for those people who are listening, sorry to cut you off, Matt, but some people might get caught at the sympathetic versus parasympathetic nervous system. Basically, sympathetic nervous system is fight or flight. Parasympathetic nervous system is rest and digest. So the way you can easily remember it is paralyzed. You're paralyzed. You can't move. Like you're relaxed. That's how I remember it. Versus sympathetic is when you freak out. And you are so unbelievably correct that most people could really value if they just understood that your thoughts can send either one of those things, either one of those nervous system, like that's what can trigger it. Just a thought. Yep. I could tell you something right now that could make your nervous system. If I mentioned a fight in the past or something, or if you told me something that I have dealt with in the past, you could easily like re-engage my sympathetic nervous system. So that it's so important to manage your thoughts.
Yeah. I mean, the example, I think they used one, and I forget what they used in the book, but it's like, they like show people how they use like a saliva example where it's like, you think about your saliva, you think about all the wonderful effects of like how it digests food, and you imagine like swallowing saliva as it's in your mouth and it goes in your stomach and breaks stuff down. Then you recontextualize saliva and you're like, all right, imagine drinking spitting into a glass every hour until you save up like a glass worth of saliva and chugging, and then all of a sudden you get physically, your stomach goes, oh, because it like that's how powerful your thoughts are, and people don't really people forget about that and just get hooked to these kind of like spat, like this is not okay, this is not okay, this is not okay. And it's like, you're trashing your body. If you're constantly in situations that you can't accept, your adrenaline's just running all the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I appreciate the to clarify. But so you have these four things, you're accepting things, you're working on, noticing your thoughts as they occur. You're trying to orient your life towards values and rather than just the avoidance of things that are uncomfortable. And are we at 4? Let me see.
I thought that was 4.
That was 4.
So let me see. So I'm going to test my knowledge here. So first one is established values. Second one is the cognitive diffusion.
Yep.
Third one is presence.
Yep.
And then now the fourth one is acceptance.
Yes. So I can't remember the sixth one. I know the fifth. I know the last one. So let me, this is going to take me 2 seconds. I'm like, this is a good, whatchamacallit. I've been trying to have these like kind of memorized.
I was trying to put them in an acronym in my head. I haven't found one yet as you're talking, but I'll eventually.
Okay. So here we go. And this is kind of related to the presence one, but it's just contact with the present moment. So that is because like when you look at, let me just pull this thing up. Actually, this will help people kind of contextualize it. Oh shit, where's this thing? Sorry.
I got your time, buddy.
Is this right here? All right, so let me screen share real quick. Chrome tab. All right, this should be good. All right, so we see this little thing over here. You see my mouse?
Yep.
So here's a way to think about it. Like we said before, psychological flexibility. This half is more or less the mindfulness and acceptance process over here. Contact with the present moment, acceptance, diffusion, cognitive diffusion. Self is context. Okay, so sorry, I actually was wrong. Contact with the present moment is the presence. So that is the presence aspects. We already got that. This is the one that I always forget about. Self as context. So and this is the way to think about this is we have cognitive diffusion. Okay, so when I experience thoughts, I'm experiencing the process that I'm thinking over the context of my thoughts. But then self as context is like, God bless you. Self as context.
Did you hear that?
Yeah, I heard you. God bless you.
I muted my thing. Damn.
Too bad.
Sorry, guys.
That'd be funny if I muted it and just farted real loud. So we realize that, like, all right, our thoughts are just, things that occur that pop up for whatever reason, and we can just watch them just kind of float by and, get the message from them without being, biologically hooked into them and enacting the whole melodrama of whatever we're thinking all of the time. We can notice we're doing that and kind of telling ourselves like, hey, it's okay, calm ourselves down, and then act in accordance with our values, because like within a split second, as we all know, we can just launch into a behavior pattern that we very much regret. Like we do this very quickly and almost unconsciously.
So I'm feeling the diffusion is almost like a disassociation with the thoughts. Like the thoughts are not me. I can observe my thoughts. Am I
Yes.
correct in that? Okay.
Yes, exactly. You're not your thoughts. That's the big takeaway with all the mindfulness stuff.
Right.
Your thoughts are something that occur, but you are the one who has your thoughts, which is a whole different thing. So the self, you're the one who perceives the fact that you're thinking. It's like they use in mindfulness, they use the analogy like, so you have your mind, you have your consciousness. That's an ocean. Your thoughts are like the little fish or the waves on top of the ocean. They happen, but they're not the whole thing. They're just a small piece.
Right.
And you can identify with that larger pool of water, which is all of your thoughts, all your feelings, all your emotions, blah, blah, blah. Or you can get hooked on that one little fish hopping out of the water. So self as context is like, all right, so the story of who we tell ourselves we are, it's just a bunch of thoughts if you really break it down, and if like this happened to me this time, this is that, da 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 da, like that's all true, but like we can learn how to disidentify with thoughts, and then if we get good at that, we can start to disidentify with certain parts of our self story that we've kind of taken on and how we define ourselves.
So that would totally can see that.
So you can take self as content of everything that's ever happened to you, or they say self as context, meaning like, there's all this stuff that happened to me, but like within who I am, there's, again, there's things that happened to me, there's where I grew up, but there's also like all of the potentials I haven't realized. There's all of these other things, so like, it's kind of stripping down your self story and having it include like who you'd like to be as well, and not being so rigid like I would do. Oh, I'm just not a dancer. That's a self as content. That's
right.
Me saying, when people like put limitations on themselves, that was just a thought I was having, and I chose to identify based on that thought as to who I was and let that thought define me, where self as context is a lot more, it's a looser perspective to take on yourself. I'm just not a public, everyone says, oh, I'm not a public speaker. Well, you could be. It might be terrifying. I was terrified to do stand-up when I first did it. But it's like, it doesn't mean, like, you can say, yeah, I'm not good at it versus that's not who I am. And self as context starts to really make us pay attention when we're adding self-limiting thoughts and then identifying as those. And we do that because that protects us from uncomfortable stuff. But it just launches us back into that avoidance strategy that ends up with us leading an unfulfilling life, which, makes us sad. So we took ourselves from point A, was like, we're about to do a thing, we're about to give a presentation, or ask a girl on a date, something that's just like, it's terrifying, there's so much stuff could go wrong, but at the other end, if this works out, my life's going to change for the better and become richer, more fulfilling, blah blah blah. So we've distanced from our thoughts, we're more present in the moment, we're viewing the way we think of ourselves and trying not to limit ourselves so much, and we're basing our decisions off our values, we're accepting everything for what it is, and then from that point, when we work on all those skills, we can start working on taking committed action, which is the last part of psychological flexibility, where committed action is different than kind of like, just like reaction to things. Like, well, I don't want to do that. Where we've taken all these things into account, we've planned stuff out based on our values, and we start to put all of that into workable action items so that we can actually change our reality. So that's psychological flexibility in a nutshell.
Awesome. So now can we walk through, let's say, a case study or an example?
Yeah. I mean, so it's funny. I have a bunch of these written down in a little book we did for Rhomas, which, by the way, we got to fucking.
We do it. It's completely on me.
Even
so guys,
even do a beta version, figure it out, and like see what people think. But
that's a great idea.
All right, so let me. You know what? I can do this actually right now, off of my memory. So you have a person who's like, you have a person looking in the mirror, and they say, damn, I've gotten fat, right? So that happens. That can happen to anyone. That's a thought anyone can have, and it's something that can genuinely happen. So they go, man, I look disgusting. They're like, I should run. I should go run right now. I should run 5 miles. And then it's like, I'm gonna run 5 miles today. And you're feeling horrible. I feel gross. I ruined my body. I'm having all these thoughts. I'm identifying with it. And then there's you start thinking like, didn't David Goggins, he ran 5 miles? I'll run I'll run 5 miles. No excuses. Let's fucking go. And then like you're having all these thoughts like, you're not a runner, you're not this, you're not that, and you're like, nah, fuck it, I'm gonna do it. And you go and you try to run 5 miles, and you get to like 3 miles, and you throw up because you haven't exercised in like 6 months. And then you say, I knew I wasn't a runner. I was right. That's not who I am. I don't know why I did that. Versus someone who looks in the mirror and says, damn, I've gotten pretty fat. And then you start saying like, oh man, I'm such a piece of shit. I'm blah, blah, blah. You know, I should go run 5 miles to get rid of this bad thought. I just want to get it out of my mind. Where someone who's psychologically flexible is like, you know, okay, so we accept the fact that we've gotten a little big. Let us, 5 miles seems a bit extreme. How about I go outside and I take a walk, you know? And if I feel like it, I'll run. And that person who is able to kind of talk themselves out with identifying, like, you know, like I'm a fat person. They're like, yeah, I've gained a couple pounds. It doesn't, you know, change who I am. You know, that's just my body. I'm going to go outside and I'm just going to walk a little. And if I'll jog maybe if I feel like it, and I'll walk back and kind of start from there. And that person, and they have the same thought. Oh, you're not a runner. You're not this. You're not that. And it's like, well, I'll go do it anyway and see what happens. You're just basically letting your experience be the judge for what you can and cannot do versus your brain being like, yeah, I can't do that.
Right.
Does that make sense?
100%.
It's kind of a muddled example, but if it's like you're not a runner and the guy was like, yeah, you know what, I'm not going to run, versus someone being like, well, let me just try and see what happens.
Yep. Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, one of the main things that I see in this model that I have, sometimes I'm good at it, sometimes I'm bad at it, but labeling things away from my identity. So for instance, let's say if it's public speaking or something or whatever it is, one of the key phrases that I use in my head is, oh, it's not that I'm bad at that. I'm just still in the process of downloading that skill set. And for some reason, that kind of terminology to me, like it makes me disassociate. It's like, it's not my identity. It's not me. It is, oh, I'm still downloading that skill, which tells my brain almost at a subconscious level that nobody who is good or bad at something is inherently good at or bad at that. They had to download that skill. So therefore, if they had to download it, then all I have to do is download it. Now they might download it a little quicker than me or slower than me. That doesn't matter to me. It's like, if I'm interested in, then going back to your point, Matt, if I've established my values ahead of time and therefore determined that it's actually worth it to go through the process of downloading that skill, I've now released my emotions from judging myself preemptively. And also I've said, I'm committed to this because this is a core value of mine.
Yep.
Am I hearing that correctly in what you're saying?
Absolutely. And then, dude, all that judging stuff, when I'm this, I'm that, all you're doing at the end of the day is keeping yourself from a situation that would make you uncomfortable. I'm not good at that. I get shaky. I get nervous. I get this. I get that. And at the end of the day, all you're doing is cutting yourself off from that experience preemptively. And then your brain gets rewarded. Because that's the other thing. As soon as you identify a thing as threatening and then like back away from it, you just solidified like a pathway. Your brain's like, nice. All right, next time that thing comes up, I'll get even more nervous just so we know, to get away from it.
Yeah.
So that's again that goes into they go into so much more depth and detail, and they have like very specific practices to do. I have all this stuff is on Psych, but it's like, I think it's like I have like probably 6 hours of video explaining psychological flexibility.
Oh yeah, dude, this is awesome. I think this is exactly the kind of stuff that we should be talking about and learning from each other, and all the guys teaching each other. Like these little quick little mental models that we can go out immediately and use in the next 10 minutes and definitely the next day. And I love what Kaizen said, treating yourself like you're in a video game. You have to level up like in an RPG. That's phenomenal. It's just a phenomenal way of thinking about it. And then it reminds me, one of the mental models that I use is what Joe Rogan said. Imagine that you're in your own documentary. Like, are you doing what would be cool for you in a documentary right now? And then even when you're going through the dip, because every single hero's journey, the reason it becomes compelling is when you go through struggle. So whenever I'm going through struggle, I've almost turned it around. Again, if I'm being good at it, I've almost turned it around to say like, okay, like, yeah, I'm in a movie and I just got a little movie scar. It's going to look pretty badass, like, at the end of the movie, that sort of a thing. So developing those little movie scars and embracing those movie scars as you go through your own documentary, I think is a good way of thinking about it, at least for me as well.
Yeah, man. I mean, absolutely. And it's like, yeah, being able to kind of keep things steady while you're getting all those signals and feelings and like you need something to anchor into. Otherwise you just get kind of, blown with the breeze, and people get, then they, years go by and they get like, what the fuck? And, typically people will start either blaming others or just blaming themselves. And it's, you don't have to really do any of that. You just have to kind of ground yourself in something compelling enough to push you through an otherwise uncomfortable situation. The cool thing, and you know this too, Wes, it's like once you do this a couple times, it gets infinitely easier and easier and easier and easier. It's like once you confront like you're say you confront a situation that's like a 5-alarm nervous system, like no, like public speaking for me, like freak out. Once you do that a couple times and you're like, no, I got this. It's amazing how much your nervous system just cools down. And here's you now. You had your life. Say your life was like this. Your life just goes like that a little bit. And then you're like, all right, what if I did this in my interpersonal relationships? And your life goes like that. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, everything doesn't, I don't feel like I'm being crushed by life. And, if things are open, I have options, I can move about. But I swear to God, it's like, and this is why I think so many people don't do this. And it's for a good reason. It's like we have like a fire alarm system in our body. And it's like,
oh yeah,
if you don't learn how to kind of like work within that and kind of like, again, have that larger, like big, they call it big self, little self, of having that being rooted in what they call larger self thoughts that like, do my core beliefs trigger my autonomous nerve, do they trigger my nervous system in a good or bad way? And that's something for people to kind of examine, because there's another book I was reading saying like, if you're rooted in like, life sucks and then you die, everything's unfair. If they're your core beliefs, each of those core beliefs gives off, let's say, a network of their own thoughts of like, fuck this isn't fair, blah, blah, blah. And if you're, so like you can cut, like, you can try to, think of, if you're trying to fight thoughts off on a thought level, you're just, you're just multiplying thoughts. But like to really go down and examine those core beliefs about like, what do you think life is? What do you think you should get out of life? And like really structure your life around those rather than those little tiny gnats flying above them. You can just eliminate whole fields of negative thinking by just reorienting yourself around values versus being like, this sucks. It's like, well, yeah, okay. That's your core belief, and that will be your experience. So,
well, like I've done several times on the show, I'd like to have another groundbreaking moment and nominate you for Dude of the Week,
dude,
for teaching. No, dude, you should. Matt, you can't get in the way of a nomination. And anybody else can nominate whoever they want on the sides as well. But I'm going to nominate you for a couple of reasons. Number one, I wouldn't be here, nor would any other of the guys be here if it wasn't for you. Number two, your commitment to teaching all of us consistently and in a way that's awesome and comedic and lighthearted and still serious at the same time is an awesome Venn diagram for me. So you better put up that damn poll of you. You're on there. Yep.
Fine.
Guys.
I'm going to put up, I'll honor that. I'm going to put up, whatchamacallit, Gunth as always. I think Troy tossed up some W's too.
And Ray said carrying Wes when he flakes on us. That's absolutely correct. So, and out of respect for you and no disrespect towards anybody else, especially Gunther, I would never disrespect him or anybody on this team. I'm not going to promote anybody else right now. That's just how it's going to be. They might win, and that's they are well deserved. But my vote goes to you.
All right.
So that would be my vote.
I'm putting Andrew up there as well, and I'm putting Jake.
Jake always deserves to be on there, man. That guy's a beast. He's going to win this one day.
We got to bring him back on here at some point. All right. The poll's up. I'm going to close I can't announce this, dude. I can't announce the poll. Oh, my God.
All right.
Here we go.
All right. You got 3. Oh, Andrew and Matt. 5-3. 5-3. We'll give it another 6 seconds.
Yes. Tie.
6.
Come on, Andrew. Come on.
6, 5, 4, 3. Remember that none of us would be here if Matt wasn't here. 3, 2, 1.
No, Andrew.
Boom. Done.
Tie. Ah, shit. Never mind. It was a tie. But
I have a funny feeling Andrew will make his way up on there next week.
I peeked ahead. Yeah. Well, yeah. There we go. I got one. Hell yeah.
So, thank you, brother, and thank you for teaching us today, man. That's huge.
Fuck yeah.
And
Dude,
Andrew, such a gentleman, said my vote was for Matt. Hell
what
yeah.
an animal. Dude,
Fucking gentleman.
Appreciate you guys. I do appreciate that.
Hell yeah, buddy.
Also, yeah, dude, I'm telling you, I might make myself just a Dude of the Week T-shirt and rock that.
Absolutely.
Don't tempt me. But also Ray, I think yours is getting sent out this week. Brittany's shipping. She might have already shipped it out, but the Yeah, man, I would highly challenge that. Like, really, I've been trying to organize all the information in my head, and that's a good, like, kind of firing line or like a trial by fire to, like, be able to explain it in a way that doesn't, like, go off into just rambling nonsense. So,
Yeah, dude, I swear, man, like creating mental models and Charlie Munger says that it's not only important to create those mental models, it's important to put them in a lattice framework in your head so you can easily reference them very quickly. So yeah, I think as we teach each other, that will help us teach number one, everybody else, including ourselves. And yeah, guys, we would love to have anybody up here who can teach on a specialized thing. Like I would love to have Kaizen up here sometime teaching like a quick little, hey,
yeah,
here's what I learned in the what do they call it, PUA world.
yep, yeah, it'd be sick, man. That just putting together some sort of like beginning to end thing,
Yep.
some presentation. Also, too, I will say this, just to give the stuff I was talking about like a more, I guess, lifelike, like how did it actually work? So it's like, I researched all this stuff, and I'm like, this is fucking awesome. I put it into practice, dude. Like a year ago, and this was like where I was at, let's say last year. The thought of like, let's say like going away to do stand up and all, it was just like in my head. I'm like, oh, it's gonna be an argument because my wife would typically be, if I had to go away for a weekend, that would be a whole uncomfortable conversation. I would just be like, fuck it, put it
I know
off.
that story, brother.
Whew, it was a bit of a motherfucker, and it's like I now, and both of us, we both, like, this isn't just me, like we've both grown because of this, and we're able to kind of like root ourselves in like, what's our vision, what are we trying to do, and now it's like, boom, this weekend I got to go away. Oh, I got to go, like, it was at the point where, and I got to go away at one point. It came up. We have like a million weddings to go to, and it kind of rubbed up against one of the weddings we have to go to. So like, I was had a hard enough time getting away for the weekend, and I was able to be like, hey, remember that wedding we're supposed to go to? Like, I'm not going to be able to go. I got to do work stuff. Totally cool with it. And that for me, within the course of a year, was like a huge, humongous turnaround.
Sounds like
None
it.
of none of that would have been possible unless I was able to like do all that work for a year. It took a year just to alter the nature of like a type of conversation I was having. This is like how
Yep.
deep this stuff goes.
Oh
So
yeah,
I would tell
completely
people
agree with
like,
that, dude.
dude, and then before I'd be like, fucking she's so. You get out of all that stuff, and you're like, how can I make this work for both of us? And it's like, those skills help. And that was just one thing. They help so much. So,
Yeah, yeah, dude. Well, that was awesome today, and thank you for teaching me, brother.
of course, man. Thank you as always. Thank you. Thank everyone. Thanks everyone for coming because this is fun.
All right, dudes.
All right.
Have a great
Later
weekend.
on. See you.